Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com, and I just want to talk a little bit about the grander libertarian mission. Oftentimes, a lot of people who identify as libertarians are people who are really passionate about the philosophy, about the literature, about the tradition, and they talk about libertarianism, I do this, at a very intellectual level. Okay, talking about sort of the economics of free markets, talking about the philosophy of self-ownership, and things like that. But I think there's a more, beyond just the education of people and trying to, one, promote libertarian principles and explain the pragmatic and practical reasons why freedom is a good thing, there is a greater mission at work. Because one of the things that you'll talk to a lot of libertarians and they'll point out is that when you're a child, a lot of these libertarian ideas make perfect sense. The idea that I shouldn't be forced to share with my friend, I should share. You don't necessarily know them right away, but you pick up on them really quick, that I shouldn't hurt people, I shouldn't take their stuff. Again, there's a learning process, but as a kid you pick up on these pretty quickly. And you kind of have this sort of optimism to the world, that you have innocence. And I think when we take a look at people's impulses to use force to control each other, whether it's through government or through direct violence, but the idea is like, oh, well, people will only behave the way I want them to behave if we create a rule and we enforce that rule through force. That impulse comes from somewhere, and that comes from a loss of innocence to an extent, because basically at a young age we trust people. At a young age, and a lot of people will sit there when I talk about like libertarianism and whatnot, you'll get this you probably have heard this before, oh, the libertarians are naive. And everyone likes to call anyone they disagree with naive. The idea is like, oh, you believe in something I disagree with because you just misunderstand the world. And that's a very common way of approaching each other. But what I hear isn't so much that, hey, you just look at the world wrong or you just understand the world wrong. What I'm hearing is you haven't been hurt as much as I have. Because what happens to a lot of people is they trust people. And not everyone necessarily always rises to the trust that they've invested in them. And instead of sort of recalibrating how they distribute their trust to people or trying to become better, at saying, okay, well, I'm only going to trust people this much at first and work my way through it, they just become cynical. And they become doubtful that you can trust people in many regards. And that's where sort of that impulse to control is. Because if you can't trust people to reciprocate, if you can't trust people to be trustworthy, because your experiences have damaged you, in a sense, it makes it really hard to make that leap to think that people should be free. Now, of course, some people come at libertarianism saying, well, people are horrible. And if most people are horrible, then why would you want why would you want a small group of horrible people running the world for everybody? But that would still put yourself in a situation where the world is a bleak place, whether it's a small group of horrible people or a large group of horrible people making lots of decisions. At the end of the day, there's a leap of faith that people will at least not necessarily be amazing or great, but that their incentives will sort of guide them to make better decisions more of the time than others. And that does take kind of a leap at first, not because it doesn't make sense, not because there isn't a logic to it. Okay, most libertarians can point out the literature, point out the economics, point out all the things you need to know to be able to see that, that there's a lot of reason to believe that in a free world, the incentives, the way prices line up, the way institutions evolve, the way the different conflicting self-interests will play out against each other will lead to a world where incentives are better than not, more often than not. But people's own experiences, those little tiny pieces of damage, makes it really hard to accept it. So part of what we need to do as libertarians is help people heal. Help people heal all the times that others may have hurt them. Even if people hurt them unintentionally or regardless of the context. The idea is we're trying to heal people's hearts so that way they can open up their mind. And that's why the importance of listening and empathy and compassion. Because part of the process when you're interacting with people is trying to figure out why. What happened in their life. And if you sit there and you go out there and you just say, hey, you're wrong, you don't get it, you're just inflicting more pain. You're just inflicting more scarred tissue that's going to hold them back from embracing these ideas. So that's why I'm very big on the whole idea of tolerance, empathy, compassion, forgiveness, in spreading libertarian ideas. Because again, if people's hearts don't open up, their minds don't open up. People can absorb information and learn information. Their emotions can oftentimes act as filters, and we need to see sort of where the congestion occurs, and oftentimes the congestion is in the heart, not necessarily in the mind. That if you can clear out the blockage in people's hearts, the damage has been caused, and provide that healing, then they'll be able to listen to the logic, to the data, see things in a clearer manner, where they can understand that there is a lot of substance to a lot of the things that libertarians are saying. So just kind of wanted to express that. My name is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com. You can check out everything I do over there at alexmerced.com. If you want to support all my efforts, please head over to donate.alexmerced.com, where you can find the Patreon and several other different methods of supporting my efforts. And thank you guys for everything. I always appreciate all the kind words, all the support. Thank you so much.